This episode of Rookie Hunter is brought to you by the Wild Sheep Foundation. Become a member, join the Lesson 1 Club, and attend their annual convention, Sheep Show, Reno, Nevada in 2020. For more information, go to wildsheepfoundation.org. Hey guys, welcome to episode 112 of Rookie Hunter. Very excited to have Heather Kelly from Heather's Choice on the show today. We've been trying to line this up for a long time now. We met Heather at the Sheep Show in 2018. So how's this for a segue? Not only the Sheep Show a good place to meet cool people, but it's an organization that puts a whole lot of money on the ground, millions of dollars each year. And we'd love it if you became a member. You can do so by going to wildsheepfoundation.org. As most of you longtime listeners know, I prefer to do my own meals simply because I just don't like the options that are out there. Well, that's changed for me after trying all of the dinners from Heather's Choice. I decided to buy some and bring them with me on our sheep hunt. So there's no ties to us and Heather's Choice. I just want to support what they're doing. I think it's awesome and they're working their asses off. And I would love it if you guys supported Heather's Choice as well. They've been kind enough to give you guys a promo code. The promo code is Rookie Hunter, all one word, no space in there, and that will give you 20% off your order. That'll help with some of your shipping costs. One quick tip for you, there are services on the American side of the border that you can ship to, and that can also save you some money and make this a bit more cost effective for you. Look into that because that's something Kelly and I do often whenever we're buying equipment from the US. But that promo code will help you get your order into Canada for 20% off. So that's pretty nice of them. Something else that'll be joining me on our trip to northern BC this year is the Sitka Timberline pant. If you haven't checked these out, they're super rugged and tough. They're described as a burly sheep hunting pant built for racking up vertical and mid to cold conditions. So they're built to be in rough areas. I beat the shit out of mine. They still look great, and I think they got a lot of years left in them. So go check those out. You can go to sitkagear.com, and you can always head over to our website, therookihunter.com. Click on the gear tab, and you can see all the stuff we're using, including those pants. Don't forget to support North Arm Knives. Go to northarmknives.com. Let's get into this episode. Sit back, relax, crack a nice cold beer, and enjoy episode 112 with our friend Heather Kelly. Okay, cool. We're just filling up our beer, so we'll be 1 second here.
Hey!
I should have told you that's a very important part of this show, so you better get something in your hand if you got something.
I know. Seriously, if Brad wasn't so stingy here at the kitchen, I try to leave shift beers and I don't know what he does with them.
It's got a hidden stash somewhere.
Yeah, for sure.
We're actually already a couple deep here.
Perfect. This is a good way to start a Monday.
Is it Monday? I guess it is, eh?
Doesn't matter.
Yeah. We've been trying to line this up for, when did we meet you? Like well over a year and a half ago at Sheep Show?
Yep, the first Sheep Show.
Yeah,
we went to.
It's been a couple years.
Yeah. If I remember clearly, well, I definitely don't remember clearly, but I think it was after the Lesson 1 Club beer banquet. So, yeah, people can fill in the blanks on the state we were in at that point. I think we were waiting for the bus to go back to the pepper mill. So that was our introduction to you. So hopefully you don't remember much of that either.
Yeah, Sheep Show's always a blur. It's like kids in a candy store for a week straight.
Totally. Yeah, it's funny. We run into people and they're like, oh, I think we met at Sheep Show. I'm like, I don't know if that really counts, meeting someone at Sheep Show, because it's sort of, yeah, you know how it is.
It's like a flash in the pan.
Yeah.
But it's a good place to meet people. Like there's so many people down there.
Yeah, I think that's the best show that we do all year as far as the most fun.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we've only been to that one, I think, but we'd like to go to BHA Rendezvous at some point, but Reno is the one we want to hit every year, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Rendezvous is a close second. Rendezvous is like hanging out with your family. It's not really work.
Nice. Yeah, that's good. We've heard nothing but good things about that, so I think we got to add that to the list. And it's nice because that's towards the end of the sort of circuit, I guess. Usually in April or May, is it? So
Yeah, end of April, early May, and this year it's moving back to Missoula, Montana.
nice.
So it's going to be crazy. That show gets bigger every single year. Like, I guess they all do, but the BHA Rendezvous, it's noticeable how much more energy it drives every single year.
Yeah, even in British Columbia, we're getting a stronger presence here for BHA. It was kind of a slow
Mm-hmm.
start, but things are
Yeah.
starting to blow up pretty quickly. So it's nice to see because I like what those guys are doing, and yeah, it's relevant. Doesn't really matter what state or province you're in. There's something that can be done. So it's good.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So we on the last podcast Kelly and I did, we sort of did a quick recap on our trip, but thanks for hosting us and showing us a pretty amazing time up in Alaska. That was my first trip there.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, you got to come back. And isn't it crazy that you guys were here for 4 days and we did not have time to sit down and record? Like,
I know.
that's so indicative of summer in Alaska. It's just like go, 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 go,
Yeah.
go. And then it's fall and then it's winter and then it's all over and you start over again the next year. It's just freaking madness.
We actually had scheduled siesta times into our film schedule, but those never happened. And that's when I was hoping to do some podcasting. And then there was a little break when we probably could have slipped one in, but you and I had to collect firewood. So that was the end of that idea.
Oh, and we had to play stick with Django the dog. He was definitely not going to let anybody take naps because there were so many sticks to play with. Too good.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I'm glad you guys had a good trip and you freaking lucked out on the weather.
Oh,
Like,
man.
this summer has been amazing, but I really do want you guys to come back to experience how crappy it can be in Prince William Sound, just so you really grasp how good you had it.
You're right. No, I'm never coming back, actually. If that's as good as it gets, then I don't want to taint that experience. So,
One and done.
yeah, exactly. No, we'll be back for sure. We'll do part 2 of our film with you, or we'll just destroy all the footage so we have to come back. That's probably a better
There you
idea.
go. That's a faster way to have an excuse to come back during hunting season. And
Yeah,
we'll go look
exactly.
for critters.
Yeah, for sure. So Heather, you grew up in Alaska, right? Your whole life you've been up there?
Yeah, I was born and raised up here, both on my mom's and my dad's side of the family. My grandparents came up in the 1950s. So both my mom and dad were born and raised up here. And I was fortunate to be raised in Alaska. And I'm pretty into it. It's still a really, really, really fun place. And there's still so much to explore. I've seen so little of Alaska. So I'm much like you guys, the way you feel about BC. That's how I feel about Alaska.
Yeah.
I'm just freaking crazy about it.
Mhm.
That's good. Yeah, and much like Alaska, BC, there's just so much to explore. We've only, scratched the surface of it, and you could spend your whole life just, in BC trying to see it all.
Yeah.
It's not possible. So
Yeah,
pretty lucky.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
when growing up, did you spend a whole lot of time outdoors? Was that part of your upbringing with your folks in that, or?
Gosh, yes and no. So my mom and dad would maybe take us car camping, but I really didn't get really into the outdoors until college, actually. So as a kid, of course, we would go for walks in the woods and we'd go fishing and do kind of those easy things, pick a lot of blueberries. I became a raft guide. Then I started to go on some more extended trips with friends, and it was my first trip on the Grand Canyon, which was a 21-day trip that I realized, like, oh, this is what I want to do. This is the thing. Like, being in the backcountry is definitely one of the best ways to boost your confidence. I'm not sure if you guys have had the same experience or not, but that's how I got hooked on backcountry trips. I realized it was something that could really help boost my confidence and something I wanted to do for the rest of my life.
Yeah, it's a good way to test yourself physically, mentally. Mike's been in a couple situations, like with your videos that you've been doing in the Yukon there. I think winter trip to the Yukon and living beside a fire and all that kind of stuff. You mentioned that you could pretty much take anything on.
Well, that's the thing. It's like when you go through those types of experiences, it kind of just boosts your confidence, and it just helps you to realize that you're capable of much more than you realize. And if you find yourself in a terrible situation, then you can probably get yourself out of it. So yeah, I would agree with what you had to say.
Yeah, for sure. And Alaska's definitely a special place because there's so much of that to do. There's kind of endless opportunities. We're pretty darn spoiled on the different types of trips that we can do. Like my boyfriend Brad and I were driving to town this morning and talking about the different hunts we wanted to go on this fall.
Hmm.
And it was like, well, we could go for black bears here, here, and here. We could go up north and chase caribou. We can go out to Prince William Sound and look for deer, or we can fly to Kodiak. Like, we are so unbelievably spoiled with the amount of opportunities we have.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think I know the answer to this question, but are there any times you've considered moving south?
It's a great question. I lived in Bellingham during college, so I got to experience the Pacific Northwest and loved it. And then I moved out to Colorado in 2011 for almost 3 years. And I eventually, even living in Boulder, got freaking homesick and moved back to Alaska because I think that there are really great places like Montana and Wyoming, places that have lots of wide open spaces, but there's just a different feel for me here in Alaska. Obviously, it's home sweet home, but because there's way less people, and again, I'm sure you guys can relate in BC, there's less of a feeling of competition, which I really appreciate. People in Alaska really keep to themselves and they really don't care what you're doing. It's like it's awesome versus being in more, for me, like more of a city environment where it just everything feels a little bit more competitive and kind of like keeping up with the Joneses.
Yeah.
And I feel like Alaska doesn't have that.
Nice.
And I just really, really, really appreciate it up here.
Yeah, there's so much room. It's kind of
so much room.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, we kind of feel that way about BC too, I guess, but Alaska's that's a whole other. I saw some pictures and the mountains have a whole different character up there.
I was trying to explain to Kelly, like the mountains, like you show somebody a photo of the mountains, you're like, yeah, cool, it look nice. But when you're standing there looking at them, it's like, they're absolutely stunning, but they look like they want to kill you at the same time.
Yeah, I think that's pretty true. I did the drive from, I drove from Seattle up to Alaska and it took me about 6 days. And don't get me wrong, BC is so beautiful and I can't wait to do that trip again. And then also the Yukon is super beautiful. But as soon as you basically turn and start heading towards Tok, Alaska, the mountains completely change. They just become a lot more jagged, a lot more snow on them. And it's amazing to see that difference. I would have guessed that the mountains would have been the same for most of the drive, but you're right. They are just a little more rugged.
Yeah, for sure. And the other interesting thing is like they come straight up out of the ocean and they don't look that big from a distance, but the incline is so steep that you're into the Alpine in like no time, which is totally different from here, right? Because like it's a very, gradual slopes up into the Alpine in BC, especially around here in Kelowna. It's not like 90 degrees straight up out of the ocean and
you switch back.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, they definitely have their own look and feel to them for sure. That's the first thing I noticed there.
Yeah, definitely. Going after mountain goats is so enticing because where they live is so sketchy.
Totally.
Like that would be an amazing trip, but like actually getting to them is a whole undertaking in and of itself. So that's where we're kind of putting mountain goats at the top of our pinnacle.
Nice. Yeah, we're hoping to run into a few of those this summer too, on the sheep hunt. But so I didn't go up with Mike up to Alaska, but I'm wondering if I was to go up, what's the best time of year? It sounds like there's a pretty short summer. If I want to go up for, summer weather and maybe do some fishing and that kind of thing.
Man, I would say July is really kind of prime time. I love inviting people up to Alaska for the summer solstice because you do get to experience that 24 hours of daylight.
Nice.
And I mean, Mike, even when you were here, it was pretty darn close. Like, it's amazing to have so much daylight around June 21st ish. But right now here in July, Mike's going to hate this, but the bugs are actually not as bad.
Oh, no.
You don't have to wear a bug jacket sitting around the campfire. So July is pretty darn special, but then, come August, if you're here in late August, let's say for a hunting trip or something, you can get a little bit of snow in the mountains
Mhm.
and the colors change really, really rapidly. So
Hmm.
really, you're not going to go wrong in June, July, or August for a trip up here. But
Cool.
if you had to split the difference, come in July.
Cool.
So we'll kind of transition into how you got into hunting, and Heather's Choice is obviously a big part of why you decided to do that. But it was your, experience in college, I think, that sort of helped you to transition into nutrition and health and all that stuff. Is that where it started for you?
Yeah, so my origin story, I grew up as an only child and in Bird Creek where you got to see, and my mom is kind of the ultimate foodie person. She eats all organic. She'd be the one that would feed us nutritional yeast and B vitamins and cod liver oil and lots of dandelion greens, and she's kind of the ultimate hippie mama and just
Nice.
love her for it. And so I had grown up eating this really good, healthy food like wild caught salmon and Alaskan grown potatoes and Alaskan peas. Completely took it for granted. And so when I left for college, I joined the women's rowing team. And of course, I was living in the dorms. So all of a sudden, I'm exercising like a maniac, training super hard for my sport, wanting to excel at it. But then I was eating the food in the dormitory. So
Mm.
skim milk, bagels, donuts on the weekend, lots
Mhm.
of breakfast cereal, just being a freaking college kid, eating
Yeah.
whatever. And I got really, really sick pretty darn quickly. So I had full blown systemic psoriasis, which is a skin condition and an autoimmune condition. And I was miserable. So all of a sudden, I went from being really incredibly healthy to being a college athlete, stressing my body in that way, but then adding the stress of poor quality food. And I remember having to go to a dermatologist to ask them like what's going on here, and their prescription was to start taking like steroidal drugs to sort of tame the inflammation.
Wow.
And I was like, dude, I am not pumped about this. Again, I was raised by a mom that would like give me essential oils when I got a headache or a rash or whatever.
Yeah.
And so that's where I started to kind of learn about nutrition on my own. And it's hilarious because what it brought me back to, learning everything I could about sports nutrition and paleo nutrition and macrobiotics and raw foods and veganism and all of it, it brought me back to the diet that my mom raised us on,
Hmm.
which was whole foods, lots of wild caught, lots of organic, lots of fruits and vegetables. And so after college, I had graduated with a degree in evolutionary nutrition. I went on to get my certification in eating psychology and just kind of realized, man, like if there's one thing I get excited about, it's food. Like food is powerful and it will change everything for somebody. The statistic is that your health is made up of basically 80% diet. So what you eat is going to determine how your genes express themselves, how you feel on the day to day, whether you gain weight, whether you lose weight, whether you get stronger, you get weaker. And all of that ended up translating into my experience in the backcountry. So it's kind of a fun little journey I've been on.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So your introduction to the backcountry, that would have started with rafting.
Yeah. So I had taken a job in Girdwood, Alaska, and in Girdwood, we were able to do these incredible rafting adventures. They were just day-long trips, but obviously hanging with that crew of people, we were able to take out these little dinky rafts called pack rafts.
Yeah.
So they're little inflatable boats. And, my rafting buddies and I would just go on these pack rafting adventures. And I was like, these things are freaking cool.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got super geeked on boating because I was rowing crew at college. And then in the summer months, I was getting to raft and pack raft. So boating is probably my first love when it comes to the outdoors.
Those pack rafts are awesome.
You need to get one.
Yeah, I know.
You gotta get one.
Yeah, I tried it out. I went to the boat and back in one of the pack rafts. I don't know what I got sent out. Oh, for the bug nets. That's what I was going out for. And yeah, those things are awesome.
They're so fun.
What are those ones that you guys have?
Brad and I both have Alpaca rafts, and Alpaca is a company that was actually based in Alaska. I have drugged that boat through hell and back, and they're just bulletproof. I freaking love them. And there's definitely other companies out there that make small inflatable personal rafts, but if you're going to be doing any sort of rugged backcountry adventure, you got to go get yourself an Alpaca and make that investment.
Yeah, one more thing to add to the list.
I thought we were getting to the end of the list.
Get longer.
Yeah.
It seems to keep growing and growing for sure.
It never ends.
So was it your introduction to the backcountry that, made you start thinking about dehydrating your own meals, and how did that all come together?
Yeah, so I graduated from college, and then shortly thereafter I was invited on this Grand Canyon trip. And this Grand Canyon trip was a 21-day private trip over the winter months. So I think we launched right after Christmas. And I had been rafting for probably 4 years by then, but I had never rafted really big water. And so I was looking through the map, looking at lava falls and crystal and these rapids they're on a class 1 to 10 instead of a class 1 to 5 system. So they're 7, 8s, 9s. And I'm realizing, like, holy cow, what's going to be like to raft a class 9 rapid? And quite frankly, I was panicking.
Hey, I'd imagine.
And oh goodness, I was so freaked out. My dad will probably tell you about the time that I was sitting at the dinner table with him, literally crying, like, Dad, I don't think I can do this. Like, I was just freaked out. And so my way to kind of help myself feel a little bit more confident was to make sure that I had good, healthy food. Because for these private trips, you're feeding 16 people and you get mac and cheese and grilled cheese sandwiches and lots of bagels and whatever. Like, find whatever food for people who don't care about what they eat. But for me, I knew that I had a pretty strict diet that I followed, and I knew what made me feel best. So I started dehydrating food, and I think in a matter of 3 weeks, I had dehydrated over 50 pounds of food for this trip.
Wow.
And I freaking ate like a queen. Like, just the stuff that I made, like purple instant mashed potatoes, turkey jerky, lots of fruit leathers, different soups and stews. It was awesome. So I ate super well on that trip.
And then had you ever tried dehydrating food before that, or was that just your first attempt?
Yeah, that was my first attempt, and I think that speaks to my personality a little bit. I'll get really hooked on something and do it pretty obsessively for a while. So
I got a sense of that, yeah.
Yeah, dehydrating food became like my thing, and I think at that point I had actually crafted kind of a funny little menu, Heather's Choice and the tagline Meals for Adventuring. And my menu was smoked sockeye salmon chowder, mom's paschetti. There was like a corned beef hash. I have this still on my vision board at home.
Nice.
And it's hilarious because now that was in 2011. So we're 8 years later.
Wow.
And the real thing, it's now a 5-year-old business. So it's fun for me to reflect back on that funny little menu that I had sketched out for myself and then see where we are today. But yeah, dehydrating food became an obsession pretty quickly.
Nice. So when you started first, with Heather's Choice, were you doing that all out of your kitchen from home and just giving it to people to try? Or how did that all start off before you got your own kitchen?
Yeah, so I had originally started the summer of 2014. I had said that I was living in Colorado. I was actually so freaking broke that I was like, okay, I guess I need to move home. And so I moved home to Alaska with my tail between my legs, like, oh, I'm just going back to Alaska. I was excited to be home, but I was also kind of embarrassed. I didn't really make a living for myself down in Colorado. And here I was living back at my dad's house. And so that summer, I took whatever money I had and bought a bag sealer and some Mylar bags off of Amazon, another 5-tray dehydrator. And I just kind of let this whole idea for Heather's Choice really percolate. And I spent that entire summer just dehydrating food and giving out samples to my friends. So I had friends that were going to Burning Man, or I had friends that were going pack rafting or on hunting trips. And I just started handing out this stuff for free to start getting feedback. And pretty quickly, I was getting some great response from my friends that I was giving this stuff to. And one friend in particular said, "What's it going to take for you to turn this into a business?" And I was like, well, A, I need a kitchen, and 2, I need a bigger dehydrator. And so he actually let me rent out his studio apartment for free. So there was my kitchen. And then he drove me to Cabela's and bought me the biggest dehydrator that they had, which was like $900. The thing was a total piece of junk, and I would like kick it from here to tomorrow if I could. But
Nice.
somehow I got lucky enough that somebody encouraged me to launch on a Shopify platform, which is the e-commerce site that we sell on still today.
Right.
And so I just like flicked the switch and was like, okay, heatherschoice.com is live.
Nice.
And remember that day, it was August 15th of 2014. And by the end of August, it had outgrown like what I could do personally, which isn't saying much. Like, I didn't really think I was going to make any money doing this. It was just kind of a cool project. But very, very, very quickly, I realized, oh shit, like I cannot possibly make enough food to keep up with this thing. So that's kind of the story of Heather's Choice. That's how we got here, which is crazy to me.
Yeah, that
It's
is
just
crazy.
been a wild ride.
What was the original menu when you went live?
Yeah, so we had dark chocolate chili, we had salmon chowder, we had a chipotle cherry chili with pork, and then a tomatillo rancheros with bison, and we had mom's paschetti.
Nice.
But the funny part is that, so I had this menu and I was making everything out of my little dinky apartment. And so within a couple of weeks is when I got a call from the DEC, like the local health department. And they're like, hey, so it appears that what you're doing is highly illegal and we need you to actually recall all that stuff you just sold. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. Like, what permit? I don't need a That's how oblivious I was to running a food business. And so I basically emailed all my friends and was like, hey, you already ate all that food that I gave you, right? And they're like, yes.
Perfect.
So got through that. And then that kind of catapulted me into this whole business and really what it takes to manufacture a safe food product. So yeah, again, it's just kind of a miracle that we're still here because I had no idea what I was getting myself into.
Nobody died, so that's good.
Nobody died, nobody choked. I forgot to mention though, the original menu had Packaroons, and Packaroons are our little coconut cookies, and those little suckers, I don't know what it is about them, but people freaking love them, and so they've been an important part of the menu ever since.
Yeah, the Crackaroons. I think you should rename them.
Yeah.
Addicting.
Yeah.
Those are awesome. Jesse and Tash have all my stuff, so I'm without my Packaroons, and I can't wait to see those things. I think they're going to be here in a couple weeks with them, so I'm going to destroy that box. Yeah, I know. I told those guys I'll kill them if they eat all of those.
How many calories are in one?
It depends on the flavor, but they have anywhere from 150 to 180 per cookie.
Oh yeah, that's pretty good. That's
an
a
ounce for 150 calories. We're pretty darn happy with it.
Awesome. Did you expect hunters to become such a big part of the market? No,
I had no idea. So I had my stepdad worked for the railroad up here in Alaska, and a guy that he worked with turned out to be a hunter. And so, of course, being like a supportive family friend, he reached out and said, hey, Heather, I'm going on a trip. I need 40 dinners, 40 breakfasts, and 40 snacks. And so again, I'm making everything in my little apartment with a little 5-tray dehydrator. And I was like, whoa, okay, like I need to kind of boogie on this thing. And so I delivered this big old box of food to him, and he handed me cash. And I was like, what are you doing for 40 days? Like, I just didn't have any grasp of what he could possibly be taking off on, what kind of a trip. And so he was like, oh yeah, I'm going to chase mountain goats and I've got a sheep hunt and da da da. And I was like, wow, cool. But that was kind of the extent of my understanding of hunting or the hunting market. And then my boyfriend Brad, I had met him about this same time that all this is happening. And I remember sending him on a trip. He was going to go look for deer in Prince William Sound. So of course, trying to impress him, I like send him with all this really good, healthy, dehydrated food.
It worked.
And then
He's still
it
around.
worked. Yeah, he's still here. He's actually working in the kitchen as we speak.
Nice.
But he came back from that trip with this really awesome meat. And so, of course, we get to have date night and cook meals together. And that was probably the first little inkling that I had of, oh, it'd be really fun to go hunting together. That would be fun. Like, this meat that you brought back is freaking dynamite. And I'm pretty into food. So maybe we should plan a hunting trip together.
Well, let's hop into that because you chose an interesting species. It's usually one that you work into. So take us through the whole process of deciding what you wanted to hunt and then planning the hunt. Because Steve was part of that too, right, Opat?
Yeah, Steve Opat for sure. So Heather's Choice was our early adopters were pretty much all backcountry hunters. And so it's been a pretty steep learning curve for me to be introduced to a whole bunch of hunters and try to understand their lifestyle and what's important to them and the caloric needs of their trips. And there's just a lot that I didn't know initially when starting my business. And so after Sheep Show in 2018, I went to Sheep Show again, just to kind of like understand my customer base better and get to know these people and just chat, meet folks like you. And at the end of that show, it was like, man, I don't speak the language. Like, there's so much about this that I don't understand. I've never experienced for myself. Like, it would be really, really helpful for me to actually get to go on a hunt that was my hunt and really fully grasp the experience that my customers are having. And so talking to Steve about it, it was like, well, let's do something this spring, because again, in Alaska, we have so many opportunities for hunting. It's crazy. And so we decided we were going to go to Cordova, Brad, Steve, and I, and go hunt for bears. And I don't know why. Like, I know a lot of people have a lot of hangups about hunting bears. And for me, I didn't have that. It was like, cool. That sounds amazing. I can't even wrap my head around the idea of chasing bears. I've been running from bears my whole life. So, like, what a crazy change in dynamic.
Totally.
So we ended up going to Cordova on a 4-day trip, and it was just amazing because leading up to that, I had to go get my hunter safety course, which thankfully I did a women's specific hunter safety course, which I would recommend to any woman who's trying to get into hunting. It just kind of took away this whole factor of like feeling really, really, really dumb, being like, man, I didn't grow up shooting guns. I've actually only shot a gun maybe 3 times. I don't know the difference between a lever action and a pump action and blah, blah, blah. Like, there's so much that I don't know. Going to this women's specific hunter safety course was just a really easy way to kind of answer a lot of my stupid questions.
Right. I don't think we have that option in BC.
No,
really?
I don't think so. We should.
But I probably should have took that option too, because I hadn't shot a gun until I was 29, 30 years old. So
right? It's super intimidating. Like, I can't say enough good things about the program we have here in Alaska. It's called Becoming an Outdoors Woman.
Nice.
And so they put on a specific women's hunter safety course. And that was the first time that I felt like I could actually look at the regs and know what the hell I was reading and grasp it a little bit better. So I went and did that. And then preparing for the trip, Brad took me out to the range to shoot his gun, which is this old wooden stock 270 that his dad shot and that his dad gave him. It's the only gun that Brad's ever had. And quite frankly, it kicked my ass. And I was like,
blow your shoulder off.
Seriously, I was like, this sucks. Like, I don't feel confident doing this at all. And so we made the executive decision to like go buy me a rifle, something that I was a lot more comfortable shooting. So I ended up with a 7mm, and I freaking love it. It fits me. It's comfortable to shoot. I've shot it a whole bunch, and so I feel really good with it.
Is it a 7
then-
mm 08?
Nope, it's a Remington Magnum.
Oh, okay.
And gosh, I freaking love it.
Nice.
And so when we did that trip, we were out there for 3 days, and within 10 minutes of sitting down to glass, we saw bears.
No way.
And this place was full of them.
Wow.
For 3 days straight, we watched bears, and that was a pretty gratifying experience. Again, because all of my backcountry experience leading up to that has been a hell of a lot of bear spray and bear bells and this unbelievable fear that a bear is like stalking you and looking for you. And suddenly, all of a sudden, I just got to like sit and watch bears and realize they want nothing to do with us.
Yeah.
Like, they don't care that we're here. If we try to get close to them, they run away. And that was just a really positive experience for me as somebody who spends a lot of time in the backcountry, realizing that I don't have to spend every mile being fearful that a bear is going to jump out and get me.
Absolutely.
So yeah, we went and we had a successful trip. We got 2 bears in a matter of 3 days, and that's probably my favorite animal to go look for, because they're such characters and they're so beautiful and the meat is so good.
Yeah. How did it feel for you to walk up on that animal the first time?
I took my shot, and this bear, ran up and over this little ravine and then back down the other side. So my biggest fear, I remember, was just finding it, being unbelievably freaked out that I didn't have a good shot and maybe it got away, or maybe I did hit it and it's taken off, never to be seen again. And so actually finding it was such a huge sigh of relief. And this is actually kind of funny. So I don't know where I got the impression. I thought black bears were like 600 pounds. Like, I thought they were really big animals. And then I walked up on this bear, which was like my size, like 150 pounds. And I was like, oh no, I have shot the smallest black bear in the entirety of the world.
Yeah. That's what happened to me.
Yeah, I felt really, really dumb. So
yeah,
that was pretty eye-opening to realize, like, oh, black bears actually don't get to be that big. But the bear that I shot definitely was not the largest black bear you've ever seen. It was by no means a trophy animal.
They definitely look bigger when you're watching them stroll around.
Right?
Yeah.
And then you get up to them and you're like, holy smokes, you're not that big. You're just a little guy.
So did Steve and Brad just pass you the knife and let you go for it, or how did that?
Oh, yeah, right. No. So Brad's still not super keen, I don't think, on bear hunting, which I think is obviously totally fine. Like,
yeah,
it's not something he has a desire to do, but he supports me in wanting to chase bears. And then Steve, being Steve, of course, like, hopped in there and showed me the ropes, and like, him and I basically skinned out this animal together.
Nice.
And watching Steve break down this bear was definitely encouraging to get really, really, really good at field dressing, because he made such quick work of it. And I don't know, like, that was the first time using the gutless method, and I was like, this is genius. Why don't we always do this?
Yeah, I know. I would agree with that for sure.
Right?
You can still get in there and grab all the organs and stuff afterwards if you want to, but it's so much cleaner and easier to do it that way.
So much cleaner.
Yeah.
I was blown away. And so I feel like that's part of the fun of going hunting with other people too, is you pick up on things that maybe you do things the same way every time, but then all of a sudden you go with somebody else and you learn something new and you're like, oh, that's going to make my life so much easier.
Yeah.
Why don't I do it that way every time?
Yeah. We've done, talked about the gutless method with guys who've been hunting for 40 years and like, oh my God, I didn't even know you could do it this way. I'm like, yeah, it's way better, right?
Yeah.
And so they're kind of blow away.
Better.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, no, I guess you can take the rib meat, like, you just have to skin the rib meat out.
Yeah.
But if you want to do like the rack of ribs, then
Yeah, a little bit
to
different that
switch
way.
it up a little bit. But yeah, I like doing that. I think we've done 80% of our animals that way.
Yeah, I think so. The first time that Kelly and I got an animal, I shot a white-tailed doe, and we had nobody there to show us how to do it, but we had done a bunch of reading and stuff like that. So it was pretty
lot of
intimidating. It
YouTube.
was like, okay, we shot this thing. Holy shit, what do we do next? And it was surprising how it was like it really felt primal. Like it all kind of made sense. It was like, very clear,
Mhm.
what was what we needed to do to separate all the different parts and different cuts and stuff like that. Did you have that feeling as well?
I definitely was surprised by how easy it was in some ways. Like it still blows me away how easily the hide comes off of an
Yeah,
animal.
for
That's
sure.
that's my favorite part. I'm like, this is so cool. You would never know how awesome it is just how easily the hide does come off, and then getting to carry that out of there is just it's icing on the cake for
Mhm.
me.
Mhm.
I probably save more hides than I should. I'm sure a lot of people are like, "Yeah, you don't need that." And I'm like, "No, but this thing is beautiful. Why wouldn't
Yeah.
you take it
Yeah,
out of here?"
exactly.
Totally. Yeah, it's just one more thing you can make use of. So I think that's
Yeah.
one of the nice things about bears is they're such useful animals in that regards.
The most, I
Yep,
think.
I would
Yeah,
agree with
yeah.
that.
And so that hide that you showed us at your place, that was your first bear?
Yep, that
Yeah.
was it.
It's a beauty.
Yeah, thank you. It turned out so good.
Yeah.
Spring bear hunting is definitely going to be something I look forward to doing every year. And this year, I still have fantasies of getting a really fat blueberry bear because I
Yeah.
just want to experience like all of that fat that you can render down and potentially like the blueness of the meat or it's just so enticing. So we'll definitely be chasing bears this fall.
Nice.
Mhm.
I've heard that bear, like if you render bear fat and use that for stuff like pie crust, it's absolutely amazing.
Dude, I can't even imagine. I bet it's awesome.
Yeah.
But we're going to find out. And I'm sure my mom will be like, "What is this?" And I have to say, my mom was not super keen on me going bear hunting. Like, understandably so. She's like, "I know you want to get into hunting, but do you have to start with bears? Like, I don't really feel great about you chasing predators." But
Yeah. Could you start
been
with
a good sport about it.
squirrels or grouse first? And try that out.
yeah, you would think that I would start with like birds, but no, it was like straight to bears.
Yeah.
What do you have for birds up there?
Oh my gosh, we have so many. I know a lot of people chase ptarmigan.
Oh yeah.
And then we also have obviously tons of ducks and
Mhm.
what are the other guys? Spruce. I don't know what the difference is between spruce hens and ptarmigan, but I know there is a difference.
Yeah, spruce grouse.
Yeah.
Yep,
Cool.
spruce grouse. Brad hates spruce grouse because they're the
Yeah.
ones that you'll be trying to creep through the woods and then they'll fly up and
Yeah.
spook you. And
Yeah.
he hates them.
They're a little gamey too. The
Are
spruce
they?
grouse. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're kind of the red meat of the grouse.
They're different
but,
for sure.
Yeah,
Because
they're-
we got spruce and rough grouse
Yeah.
down here, and there's a very clear difference, even in the way the meat looks. The spruce is quite dark, and
Mhm.
they definitely have a sprucey taste to them. We
Yeah.
looked at what they're eating; it was all full of
It's
needles
cool,
and stuff. Yeah,
One's full of clover,
No
and the other one's full
way.
of pine
Yeah.
spruce.
Yeah.
Or pine
That's-
spruce needles.
spruce pine.
That's the worst. The
Yeah.
spruce pine birds.
Yeah.
Gotta
Make
stay
up your
away from
mind.
those. Yeah.
Make up your mind.
That's awesome.
It's a lot of fun. We've talked about this a little bit, Kelly and I. It's like there's something about hunting small game that is like super exciting. It just gets your heart pounding. You see a grouse, and
Yeah.
you've only got a limited amount of time to. Well, it depends how dumb they are. I guess it depends on the bird that you're after, but pretty exciting. And you can bring up morale if you're going for big game and you're not seeing anything.
Mhm.
You can just go out with a 22 or a small shotgun and chase birds for a day. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm all about that. I don't know how you guys feel about this, but I feel like it's good to have hunting trips where you have a couple of objectives or a couple of opportunities.
Totally.
Like we went bear hunting this past fall and bears were just too far away, too fast, like too high up. It just wasn't going to happen. But
Mhm.
oh my gosh, there was so many blueberries. It was maddening.
Oh, nice.
Like we brought home gallons of blueberries, and
Wow.
I was like, this isn't a bad trip.
Yeah.
Like
Mission
not a
accomplished.
big deal.
Yeah. You didn't come home empty-handed. You came home with something. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's awesome. Going back to like the the women's hunter education course, and this podcast has pretty much been a sausage party for the last 80 episodes. So it's nice to have a female on here. Do you get lots of women, contacting you saying like, hey, how do I get into this, and asking you for advice? Or
No, I kind of wished I did, because that'd be pretty fun, because I came into this and I'm still so brand new to it. And it feels like, as a woman, if you didn't have family or like a dad or an uncle or a grandpa who taught you how to hunt, then you're kind of SOL. And gosh, it's such a cool experience for me, and it's so brand new, and it's another confidence builder, which I'm all for anything that can help women build confidence. I'm not anybody. We should all have things that help build our confidence, but hunting is definitely one of them that given me a new level of appreciation for the food that I eat and the way that I get to experience the backcountry. So yeah, I hope that more ladies as adults do get into hunting and learn how freaking fun it is, because it's fun. It's fun. It's gratifying. It's challenging. It checks all the boxes.
We get women reaching out to Kelly and I saying, hey, where do we start? And it's kind of hard for us to answer that question and put ourselves in their, in their position. So what kind of advice do you have for somebody who's interested and has no idea where to start?
I would definitely look into the hunter safety courses in your area, just because that's a cool way to meet people who are also brand new to it.
Yeah.
And I was surprised, the women that were in this course with me, there's probably 20 of us, and they were all either my age, like, late 20s, early 30s, or older. So it wasn't just a bunch of kids, which is maybe what you anticipate thinking about a hunter safety course, that everyone's going to be 12 years old and you're going to feel like a big dummy.
That's what we thought too. Yeah.
Yeah. But that definitely wasn't the case. And then also, I found that the women who are very experienced hunters, who are really active on social media, they're actually like itching for the opportunity to share this information with other people. So like our brand ambassador, Serena Thompson, who's based in Oregon, when I was headed to go on a trip in the lower 48, she was so eager to take me out to help me sight in my rifle, and we could have gone shooting together 100 more times. So I think that even if you have that impression of, oh, they're too busy, or oh, they wouldn't want to go shooting, I would beg to differ. I feel like people who are really, really, really into hunting really want to share their knowledge with other people. So if you can find folks that are local to you, you'd probably be surprised how eager those folks are to have somebody to go shooting with.
I think the hunting community in general, like that's what Kelly and I have learned through, the whole process of starting as hunters. How old were we? 29 or something when we started this. And through doing this podcast, that everybody is super supportive and really wants us to succeed and do well. And I'm sure you've come across that with Heather's Choice as well. It's just an awesome community. It's actually a pretty small community of people too. And yeah, it's been awesome.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It's kind of spooky how small the hunting community is.
Yeah.
Yet it's a large group of people, and people that you really wouldn't identify as hunters, which I think is also kind of cool. Like, it's nice when you can be a hunter and not be super, I want to say like flamboyant about it, but that's not the right word. But like, you don't have to be really aggressive or like in people's faces about it. It can be so subtle, and it's just one more thing that you do to get you outdoors and to put some food in your freezer.
I feel like in BC, we've got the folks that are the flamboyant, like stickers on the truck, lifted, some of them aren't totally, I don't know, stewards of their environment.
The stereotypical hunter, I guess.
Yeah. But then there's also the ones that are just like totally quiet about what they do, and they have no ambition in talking about it, or, like it's part of their life. But I'd like to see them talk about it a little bit more in public, just so that the public knows, like, okay, it's just not those flamboyant guys. I don't know if it's like that in Alaska, but it seems in BC that people are kind of reserved, and I don't know if that's, the Canadian side coming out, but I think we got to talk a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I would agree with you. Like, I think about the people that we go hunting with up here in the fall, especially for blacktail out of Prince William Sound. And none of those people would you guess they were hunters if you looked at, just how they spend their day to day or what kind of activities they partake in or what they wear. And
Hmm.
I would agree with you that it's more fun when you can recognize like, oh, you hunt as well, cool, like we can talk about it without the intimidation factor, because I
Yeah.
definitely still get that. Like, I would be hard pressed to go into even like Barney Sports Chalet here in Anchorage, even though Kevin and Grant, all the guys that work there, are super duper nice. There's still an intimidation factor of like, ah, do I really, am I a hunter? Like, am I a part of the cool kids club yet? Or am I still just an outsider and I don't actually really belong here?
Yeah.
That's a good segue, Heather. Ask Kelly the question that we were contemplating while we were in Alaska.
Ah, yes, Kelly. Hopefully you can solve this for us.
Yeah.
So the question that we were trying to answer is, how do you know when you're a hunter?
I think the first thing that pops into my head from experience is when you're reaching for the windpipe of an animal that you're cleaning. Like when Mike and I were cleaning our first deer, once that happened, I was like, "Oh man, this is real." But
That's
I don't know.
freaking funny.
I think really it's about kind of putting that plan together and strategizing for me, and like going out there with a plan. And there's so much work that goes into before you're even putting your hiking boots on, and whether you come back or not, it's not about that. Or sorry, no, you want to come
I
back,
should hope you're coming back. Yeah.
but if you're successful or not, it's not really about that because you still hunted, right? It's about
Yeah.
like you got to put a plan together. You're in the act of hunting. You're going out there with a notion of like, you know, bringing something back. And I just think when you step into the woods with that plan and that mindset, you're hunting, because you would not do that any other way. If you're on a mountain bike, on a raft, or like running shoes or whatever, you're just not approaching it the same way. You're not going to hit the same spots. You're not going to experience the same things. And I don't know. That's kind of what it is for me anyway.
Yeah, no, I think that that's freaking cool. And I feel like I almost took an opposite approach, or like thought about it differently. Of, I've done a lot of different sports in my life. Like, I've done a lot of rock climbing, I've done a lot of kayaking, I've done a lot of snowboarding. Yet I don't necessarily identify myself as a snowboarder or as a rock climber or a
Hmm.
kayaker. Like, it almost feels unnecessary to give myself that label.
Hmm.
And so I feel like hunting is something that I have done and look forward to doing again. But I'm not sure that that makes me a hunter.
Right.
But I think that you could argue that upside down and backwards. But it is kind of fun to think through it of, what is the impetus at which you get to call yourself a
Yeah.
hunter?
The
Which
cool, the cool thing
I would
too.
also,
Oh, sorry.
yeah,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead. I was just going to say that I think that you're right, that as soon as you have the intention of, okay, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to look for animals, like, you're a hunter.
Yeah. And I think hunting is like, it means different things depending on where you are. Like if you go to Africa or Texas or, California or BC, Alaska, but that's kind of the other complexity we can throw in there. But for us, at least, I think a large part of it is putting meat in the freezer. And even though we're, going for a sheep hunt and potentially some goat hunts too, it's a little less on that side of freezer hunting. But still, at the end of the day, like there's nothing more gratifying than having sheep ribs over the fire with your buddies. And
Yeah.
I can only imagine. So,
Yeah, and I might as well answer this too. And I think for me, it's like through this process of hunting and killing, I've learned so much about wildlife, and then conservation becomes a big part of that too. And then you start to think about your impact on, the world around you, and what you can do to keep these animals on the landscape. And so there's that whole, other element to it. And I think when you can combine all of those things that all three of us have just discussed, I think that's sort of when you become a hunter, when you piece all these, hundreds of different pieces of the puzzle together, and it all starts to make sense. And
mhm.
you know what I mean? So It's a tough question to answer, I think.
Yeah, it's definitely, I'm sure it's different for everybody, but I do think it's interesting. And I definitely grapple with that a little bit of how can I have hunting be a part of my life and something that I look forward to doing each year without having the pressure of going every year or even the pressure of identifying as a hunter and changing my whole lifestyle to fit within that stereotype. So I feel like that's important for new people getting into hunting. Like, you can definitely get into hunting and create an incredible new activity for yourself and for your family without feeling like it has to completely change who you are and how you spend your time. It can just
Mhm.
be one more awesome way that you get to experience the backcountry.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
def
It's gonna change you though. There's no way around that, I don't think.
Yeah,
For the
I would
better, I think.
change you for the better.
Yeah,
Definitely.
yeah.
Definitely be ready for that.
for sure. So Heather, we've eaten up a fair bit of your time here. Let's kind of close things up with some Heather's Choice related stuff. I don't know if you want to go through everything, but what do you have available right now for meals?
Sure. So we have kind of a wide ranging menu, and I will say that our intention is to rotate the menu. So hopefully you won't see the same
Cool.
stuff always, just because I like variety and it's my choice.
Yeah, it's totally up to you.
That's yes. That fits my personality to kind of change things up a little bit. So we still have our dark chocolate chili with bison. That is right now our best selling
Oh man,
meal.
I'm gonna chime in and say it's excellent. I loved it.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
So great.
so good.
We also have our smoked sockeye salmon chowder, which sells honestly equally as well. And dark chocolate chili and salmon chowder, they kind of oscillate between who's the best seller at any given day.
Right.
So those two meals will likely always be on the menu. We also have a chicken mole with rice. And if you've never had mole before,
It's not mole. We should be clear,
it's
right?
not.
Yeah, there's
Thank
no
you.
rodents
Thank
in
you.
Heather's Choice.
Yeah, seriously. Super appreciate that clarification because people are like, "What's chicken mole?" And it's freaking dynamite. It's really good
Yeah,
as a Mexican dish that you can serve in like corn tortillas if you're trying to stretch your dollar or stretch the serving size.
nice.
So that meal's awesome. We also have an African peanut stew, which if you like peanut butter, you're gonna love this meal. It's super freaking filling and super good.
Yeah.
And then we're getting ready to release Mom's spaghetti.
Oh, sweet. It's coming back.
Yep, it's coming back and better than ever. I literally consulted with my mom to get the marinara sauce recipe
Nice.
just right. So, pretty pumped about that. Anything I can do to rope my mom into the business, I'll do it.
Nice.
And then we currently have our buckwheat breakfast, which is just an awesome, hearty, oatmeal like breakfast option. And I'm currently looking at all kinds of opportunities to expand the breakfast menu as well as the dinner menu. Ideally, I'd like to have 6 dinners, 6 breakfasts, 6 snacks for everybody to choose
Yeah, I
from.
think that'd be
And
perfect.
wait, wouldn't that be great?
Yeah.
And someday we'll have way, way more, but 6, 6, and 6 is a lot to manage as it is. And then we have 8 flavors of the Packaroons, and those little suckers they just fly. People love them. We've got them into REI stores right now, and we're selling them on Amazon, and it's very humbling for me. Every month I look at how many Packaroons were sold, and I'm like, where did they go? Who is eating all of these? It's
Jesse and
fun.
Tash, they're eating them all.
Oh my gosh, it's so great. So yeah, the Heather's Choice Adventure menu continues to evolve based on the feedback that we get from people, and that's what's fun about running a small business is you get to have one-on-one chats with your customers and get their feedback and then make adjustments accordingly. So we're all pretty damn grateful for the little business that we've built up here in Alaska.
Yeah, for sure. One thing I really appreciate about what you guys are doing is the small packaging. I don't know if you get a
Yep.
lot of comments on that, but that to me that matters for sure.
No, I appreciate you saying that because that was one of my first trips that I did. That was a pack rafting trip. I was way, way, way out in Denali National Park, and I was with a buddy sharing a tent, and this guy was eating out of a Mountain House bag, and he was shoving his entire fist into this Mountain House bag to get to the bottom of it. And I was like, dude, we are in super grizzly bear country. When I start my own food business, I'm going to make sure that the bags are short enough that you don't have to stick your whole hand in the bag. And here we are.
Awesome. So yeah, we put up a call for questions on Instagram, and people were like, how can we get it in Canada? What's the short answer to that for you? Because I know you guys are working on it.
Yeah, the short answer is we are working on getting a Canadian distributor. So definitely wish us luck on that. If you know anybody, call us, give us some tips. It's not an easy trajectory. And then additionally, we're looking at fulfillment into Canada via Amazon. Cool. So that could actually come to fruition. Otherwise, if you're lucky, I'll just do a delivery. I got to deliver to an outfitter in BC on my drive up. So
nice.
Anytime we can do like the Heather's Choice delivery service, the Pony Express, will do that as well.
Yeah, we smuggled them onto the plane. We probably should have got more and sold them for twice the price.
Yep, you could have done it. See, another reason why you have to come back.
Yeah, for sure. We'll come back with a bunch of empty bags this time. Shipping is kind of the challenge for you guys, I think, right?
Yeah, shipping's just astronomical to Canada. I don't know why. We don't charge any more for our Canadian customers, but
no, that's the same for
what.
Sitka, First Light. Everybody, Kuyu, who's trying to do stuff out of the States and send to Canada, it's like a common thread. It's just not easy to get stuff up here.
So freaking silly.
Yeah.
See, that's why we just need to drive it across the border. That's gonna be the easiest way to solve this.
So say if there was like 3 guys who wanted to load up on Heather's Choice, would that make sense if they just put in a big order? A bunch, amongst a bunch of guys, or does it matter as far as shipping?
Yeah, it would make a big difference. Also, if you have anybody who can have a ship to Bellingham or Blaine or something right across the border, obviously that makes a big difference. Yeah. But yeah, the shipping percent of your order does go down the more that you order. And if you or anybody else ever has questions, I just recommend calling us, because our girl, Kristen, who's filling orders every single day, she answers the phone and she'll help you negotiate the best rates that she can find on her end.
Before we wrap up, do you have any diet advice for Kelly and I as we head on our sheep hunt? What are we at, a month away here?
A month, exactly. Almost.
I'm bringing some Heather's Choice, but I'm going to have to make some meals too, or make up the difference anyways. So for anybody who's thinking about doing it on their own or whatever, and I think we talked about, being constipated and feeling like shit for 4 days at the beginning of your hunt. Is there any way to avoid that type of stuff? Or
I really feel like your backcountry nutrition planning starts as soon as your last hunt ends.
Right.
You basically have all year to perfect your diet. And so the food that you eat on any given day that's really what should be reflected in your backcountry nutrition plan. So when I was a college athlete, that's what my coach would say. That's what any good coach will tell you, is you got to test your race day nutrition. And so I feel like backcountry nutrition is the same way. Like, you don't go buy a rain jacket and then go on a 10-day hunt and hope that it repels water. Like, hopefully you test that stuff before you commit to using it for 10 days.
Yeah.
And so I would say just look at your daily nutrition plan, even use some sort of a calorie tracker if that's helpful to you, and just get kind of a ballpark of how much you eat on any given day. Because you might find that a day at the office, you only eat 15 or 1,800 calories. And so then when you go out into the backcountry and you think you're going to eat 5,000 calories a day, you might find that you just physically can't stomach that much food. And so then it's just wasted calories that you're carrying around with you when you maybe only needed 2,500 to 3,000 calories per day for your trip. So
you're just trying to eat it out of your packs to lose the weight.
Yeah.
That's what happened to me last time.
Totally. Yeah. So I would definitely encourage people to just track their daily nutrition, get some sort of a baseline, and then be realistic about how much more hungry you're going to be. Because a lot of times, especially for men, I feel like they get really tied up in what they're doing and kind of the pursuit of animals that they forget to eat.
Yeah.
And so again, you might find that you brought way more food than you needed, and now you're just carrying around a bunch of excess weight when you could have saved yourself a couple of pounds by being a little bit more stringent with your nutrition and figuring out what your actual caloric needs are.
And my phone just lit up with one more quick question here.
Yeah.
This guy's asking, what happens if you run out of fuel for your stove? Can you rehydrate from cold?
Oh, yeah, you totally can. Whether it's freeze dried or dehydrated, you can definitely rehydrate with cold water.
Cool.
You'll have to plan ahead. A lot of times, a meal can take upwards of 8 hours to rehydrate. And so, from a food safety standpoint, you don't want to do that because that would be like leaving, cooked food on your counter at home all day.
Right.
Like, it's just not a good idea. But if you're going to be in pretty cold conditions, like if it were me, I would feel fine about adding cold water to something and letting it soak overnight when it gets a little bit chillier versus putting something, let's say, in the brain of your backpack in the sun. Like, maybe not advisable from a food safety standpoint. So definitely you can get away with the cold soak method. But if I were you, I would just pack a little extra fuel so you don't have to go without hot coffee.
Good point. Or light a fire or something.
Something.
Yeah. Good stuff. Before we go, anything else you want to add to the conversation?
No, this has been great. Thanks for having me, you guys.
Yeah, I'm glad we finally got to do it. And we should definitely set some time aside at Sheep Show to do this in person because it's just better that way.
Yeah,
Yep.
and the old pepper mill.
The old pepper mill, we usually have the fridge stocked full of all kinds of beverages. So
even some fruit and water.
we had a nice spread last time, didn't we?
Yeah.
So
That's awesome.
you can look forward to that. And I'm super excited to bring Heather's Choice with me on our sheep hunt. And hope to bring it on more trips for sure.
Yeah, thank you guys. I appreciate
Yeah, no problem.
the support.
Good stuff. Well, until next time.
Yeah, thanks, Heather.
Yeah, take care.
Cheers.
Cheers.
This episode of Rookie Hunter was brought to you by the Wild Sheep Foundation, Sitka Gear, and North Arm Knives. As always, it is hosted by Kelly Mullner and myself, Mike Peterson. It is recorded, edited, and produced at Mountain Stream Audio Productions in beautiful Kelowna, British Columbia. Original music written by the one and only Kelly Mullner with help from Graham Ord, Darcy Booth, and Chip Sleedermean. If you want to help us out, there's one thing you can do. You can go to iTunes or wherever you get your podcast from and leave us a 5-star rating and a review. And don't forget to subscribe. For more on the show, head over to our website, therookiehunter.com.